Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
That's exactly right. Away we go. Purple Daily. It is Purple Access, which is, of course, part of the Purple Daily family, which is why I'm on the screen, Judd, Ross, and our guy, Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune columnist, and my longtime friend, Tennessee Vols fan. He loves college football, and it's been great. But we are here to talk about the Vikings. Chip, I'm going to start with this one. 5-2 now, 2 losses within 5 days. Detroit, tough game. Rams, I was very disappointed. But what is your current assessment now that they've lost a couple of games of the Minnesota Vikings at 5-2 and in third place in the NFC North?
Well, I think we've seen last 2 games that they have a very small margin of error, and they have to stop. They have to clean up a lot of the self-inflicted mistakes that they're making. I mean, the penalties are absolutely killing them, Judd. There's a number of things offensively and defensively we can get to, but the self-inflicted stuff is what's maddening. It's the procedural penalties on offense. That Rams game, they gave the Rams 3 or 4 first downs on third downs with defensive penalties. That's how you lose games, because they're not so far superior. Very few teams can overcome that, right? When you're just given extra downs and extending drives with pre-snap penalties. So I want to see them get that edge back, particularly defensively. I don't know what that was with the Rams. They had no pass rush, and I don't know if it's you credit Matthew Stafford, if it's they were tired from the short week or what have you. But I think the Rams probably took a page from the Lions game. I think the Lions might be the best, most complete team in the NFL. I think they're a really good offense. I think they're the best offense. So, and that was you had a chance to win that. No shame in that. But the Rams game, just the continued mistakes and penalties, and then also the lack of pass rush from the defense. They need to get that resolved here quickly.
So let's talk about the penalties, because now I did spend, and I think you'll be absolutely shocked by this, I did spend all day Sunday watching the Red Zone channel and watch football from basically noon on.
Yes.
And it's very clear that officials throughout this fine league are looking for procedural penalty, pre-snap, right? Like this is not a Vikings being picked on thing. This is a league-wide thing. Point of emphasis, I guess, which I absolutely hate, but it is what it is. But you're right. I mean, the Vikings the Vikings' lack of discipline, it's weird because they're a very hard-working, smart football team in some ways, but then they're committing some just atrociously stupid mistakes. And if you're O'Connell, you can't have this. So I'm interested in how you clean this up, because I think part of the problem, O'Connell, throughout the season, and it was true against the Rams too, has basically alluded to the fact that we have to run more offensive plays. And right now, the Vikings, now some teams have played 8 games, some teams have played 7. The Vikings have the fewest, I think, offensive plays in the entire league run. But when you're constantly behind the sticks because of false starts and things like that, this is what happens. So my question is, beginning with the Colts game on Sunday, how do you clean this up? How do you fix this? Because you're right. You're going nowhere, especially like in the playoffs, if you're doing this.
Yeah, I think you just continue to emphasize it, and when you're doing their film breakdowns and all that. But it's like Jordan Addison, line up on sides,
right?
Like that can't happen. Like that's just a lack of focus.
Well, and also Chipper, this one, the constant dancing with the death of the play clock, which is an O'Connell Darnold thing. In that Lions game in the second half, O'Connell banged a timeout in the second. With those are gold to avoid a penalty there. It's like you've got to get on the same page. We are no longer in week 2.
Well, how much do you think goes into one? O'Connell's going to take every second does it go down to 15 and then the mic cuts out?
Yeah.
So he's going to take he's taking every second of that, right?
Yep.
And then, so you're giving them reminders, but I also wonder if like they have these cans, you can to something else. Isn't it inevitably going to happen when you have 2 or 3 options that you can get to, and you go up there and you look, and the quarterback looks and he has to, can and check to a different play, that when you're giving them more options and more things to process, you're going to run right up it if you're going to use all 15 seconds. So they need to speed up the operation. They need to get that more streamlined. I don't know how you do that. If it's okay, O'Connell stop talking at 20 seconds, which he's not going to do.
But he doesn't want to, because he's trying to. So what I think, and I don't know this for sure. I think what Kevin's doing with Sam is the exact same thing McVay did with Goff with the Rams, which he would literally
watch this, watch that. Yeah.
Well, he would try to see what the defense was doing and then give him the answers to the test. But again, back to what you said, you can't have that cost you 5 yards.
Yeah. Well, is it that? Is it? I'm sure it's part of that, but are you giving them two options that you're verbalizing? But I'm sure he's saying, be mindful of this coverage, watch this coverage, right. This, do it. So it's like, maybe they have to eliminate some of that and just say, okay, we can't afford to have, delay of games. We can't have. And the other thing is how much, and this is not to, excuse offensive linemen, but when they're in their stance, like how much do you think that's contributing to false starts where it's like, let's go, let's get the playoff, because they're getting antsy to, the one where, Addison just lined up offsides. That's just lack of focus. So I think I'm guessing O'Connell used this mini bye to try to figure out how they can cut down on some of these, self-inflicted mistakes that you just can't have, because that's it's just too hard to overcome. And so as I'm talking about Addison, like they've got to get him going, Judd. I mean, there's too much. Jefferson's great; he's the best in the league, but he needs help. I mean, Addison's basically bringing the bare minimum to the table. I mean, they're not.
So he's played in 5 games. They played 7. He missed 2. Well, and part of the Giants game too. But get this one: Jordan Addison and Johnny Munt have 14 catches apiece.
Yeah, they can't have.
So but he also has to understand. Like here, it's weird because there's only one ball. And the one thing the Vikings are doing, where I will give O'Connell credit, because we've bitched at the guy for 2 years,
running the ball,
run the ball, and Aaron Jones is getting the ball a lot. So,
and now what does T.J. Hockenson do? I mean, is that?
And to your point, though, the thing with Jordan, there's a couple things. One is you're exactly right, dude. You lined up offsides. That's idiotic. The other is O'Connell basically confirmed that on that third down play against Detroit,
he overshot
ran the wrong
him.
route. Yeah,
he ran the route. Yeah. Well, there's no way they had him in front of Jefferson there.
No,
and I think it screwed up the whole thing. Yeah, it's like
I agree.
These are focus things. Like if you can't get that right, it's going to be hard for the coach and quarterback to trust you. So a lot of it's on Addison, but he's too talented to just not get him the ball in some way.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah. Well, he's a great deep threat.
Yeah.
Which we saw was a great deep ball.
To your point, boys, though, how can a coach motivate a player to clean those things up? Doesn't most of that have to come from the player? I don't know what a coach can do to tell a player to focus and be better in that part of the game.
Well,
so
I would say
Addison, right?
Yeah, it should. That's on the player. But if I'm the coach, I'm like, hey, look at the guy next to you. He's the best wide receiver in the league. Do everything he does. I wrote that column last year at the training camp when we had the racing and all that. And my thing was like, you're not going to get a better mentor in your actual individual team position meeting room than Justin Jefferson. Do what he says. Follow him. Everything how hard he works, all that. I mean, there's no excuse for a player in his third year to not be on the same page or having those kind of lapse in focuses. I mean, it's just and he's too talented. I mean, he can be a big part. I don't know, big part, but he could be a valuable part or an impactful part for this offense.
If you line up offsides, though, that's not I mean, you just need to look at the referee. Like, that's
good point.
A false start. A false start is a mistake which should be cleaned up. Lining up offsides on offense means you didn't look at the referee. Inexcusable. And like, that's the type of thing. And yes, he should get the ball more. There are definitely some things with the play calling at times to deconstruct or to look at. But, this team for 2 years was near the bottom of the league in rushing attempts. We all said you can't be there. Now they're not. Aaron Jones has been really, really good. And so now we can't say, well, you got to throw the ball more to Addison.
No.
Everyone has to understand where they fit in. And if anyone complains, it should always be Justin Jefferson.
That's it. Yeah. You can never throw it at him enough. No, I mean, hell, I think they're still 6 in scoring, right? Or something, So it's not like this is a team that's, an offense that's not putting points up. Last I checked, they were 6. They may have gone down into after the Rams game. But no. I mean, and it's going to be curious to see how this offense looks with Hockenson because, I mean, for Cousins, he was such a security blanket and was such a, asset in that mid-range medium, which I think, particularly at the Jets game, that was lacking. They just didn't have those intermediate routes. So I got to imagine he seems like he's anxious to get on the field. So I'm sure he's going to want to be a big part of it and productive. So they're healthy now, right, on offense, except for the left tackle, obviously. But at the skill positions, they got their complement,
So they lose Darrisaw, which is a mammoth loss. I mean, he's one of the best. On Thursday, I honestly thought, I guess in being a pessimist, that they would probably try to internally replace him. My thought was, and I think that they were leaning towards Blake Brandel kicks out from left guard to left tackle. Reisner is back. I mean, Reisner keeps saying, I'm frustrated, I want to play. And they're like, oh, hold on a second, buddy. And then on Tuesday night, we find out that they have sent a 5th round, potentially 4th round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for Cam Williams, who is going to come in here. And my guess is if they can get him up to speed, is going to play on Sunday night against the Colts. What's your thought about that? Do you have any hesitation with giving up a draft pick for that?
Well, I mean, particularly because they don't have a whole lot of draft capital to be part of.
And now they're in the 2026.
26. Yeah, this is 26. They had to. I mean, they couldn't because 25 they didn't have.
And they've given up now 2, as far as I know, 2 2026 picks because they made the Cam Akers trade, which, by the way, if you're not going to play Akers, what are we doing here?
Yeah. You're giving up. Yeah, I mean, anytime you're dipping into your now it's a 5th rounder. If Robinson comes in here and plays, well, and you get what the desired results that you want, we won't think about that 5th rounder. But it does speak to when there's a hole in this roster, Kwesi typically will find a way to fix it, or at least, make the move to address it. I don't know how good Cam Robinson's going to be. I mean,
good in pass pro, not good in run protection, and certainly not Darrisaw. But no,
he's not Darrisaw.
But nobody is for the most part.
But the interesting thing is, I mean, Darrisaw was so great, you could just leave him out there and not worry about it. I wonder how this affects play calling, play design, those type of things in terms of. I don't know that you're going to leave Cam Robinson out there on an island in the way you did Darrisaw. So now is that, I mean, you always have to adjust guys coming in and out of your, from injuries. So, but it speaks to how this regime is staying in this moment, and they're not willing to sacrifice or just not address a significant hole in their roster now. For just say, Darrisaw's only out this year and that's going to be expensive, or we're going to have to give up draft capital. No, they're willing to go out and do it. So it just speaks to me that they still believe in this team and what it can be this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the hope, and Judd, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, and Chip as well, I think when you bring in somebody like Robinson, he's not as good as Darrisaw, but obviously you believe that he's better than your other options. And by bringing him in to start, you probably have to do less finagling with your players on the field that may have had to help out somebody like Blake Brandel. Maybe that's using an extra tight end when you really don't want to help block an edge rusher. So I think the hope is just to minimize the damage from losing Darrisaw. And for a 5th-round pick, I think potentially a 4th, 2 years down the road, I think you take that risk.
Well, and particularly, I mean, obviously Jacksonville was trying to get rid of Robinson. He's not part of their future. And so for them, hey, they can get a draft pick out of it. And I'm sure from the Vikings, they're looking at it, it's like, well, if we get him, we can keep Brandel at, guard
right.
and not have to affect 2 positions. And even though you're bringing in a new guy. And so I think for them, it's about getting the best 5 offensive linemen on the field that they can possibly get, and this is the way they've done it. So I don't know. So we're recording on Thursday. I assume he plays Sunday, right? I mean, what's the learning curve for a left?
So, yes. So I went to the O'Connell presser on Wednesday, and it definitely sounds, and I asked, I said, how long does this, is there a process for a left tackle? And he's like, yeah, there's some run protection stuff. There's definitely some changes in verbiage that we can actually help him with and change back to what he knows. I got the impression that O'Connell fully expects him to start. Now, he wasn't yet at the facility by the time O'Connell did his press conference at 1:15. He wasn't at practice. My assumption was he was probably getting a physical. If that goes well, my guess is he practices today and plays, because Quessenberry would, I think, almost certainly start now at left tackle if Robinson can't play, but he's on the injury report. And he is the ultimate backup type jag. He's just a guy.
Yeah.
So I think the plan is to start him. Now, I will say this. I think I think there's 2 things here. One is I like the trade because unlike a year ago when I felt at 4-4, but with Cousins hurt, that they should have traded Hunter because they were going nowhere. And that's the one where Crazy's like, I went in the locker room or something, and the players are like, no, don't dump. And I'm like, you can't listen to that. But this team's been told since day one, hey, you're good. And they got 5 wins. They banked 5 wins. They've lost 2 games now. But I think moving Blake Brandel to left tackle now, which is a Hail Mary pass. I like the message here. But the other thing that's important is Robinson's really good in pass pro, Chipper, or he's good in pass pro. That's important because statistically, nobody hangs on to the ball as long as your quarterback does. And Darnold was fixing to get himself killed because I don't know that you can improve that. Like Hockenson and Jones, there are probably some passing concepts, and O'Connell doesn't really like to change his game sometimes. So I think that's how we ended up here.
Yeah, I heard Seifert talking about that, and I didn't realize that Darnold hanging on the ball had the most time of having the ball in his hands, hanging on to it. But that's O'Connell's offense, Judd. He wants to throw the ball down the field. It takes time. Is KO really going to change his philosophy and his mentality?
Well, he might
have to. He might have to. He might not like it. Yeah, let's say he may not like it, but he may have to because that is the nice thing when you have 2 tackles that you really can trust to hold up. It gives your quarterback time to let those your receivers get down the field and have those deep. They may not be able to do that. Maybe they have to get more. Now, I think it probably was going to change anyways, right, with Hockenson because he's going to run the more intermediate routes, so he's going to come out the ball out quicker. But it'll be interesting to see how much, if that really is the case, if there's more, quick hitting stuff because you just don't have Darrisaw. You have to adjust that way, or else you're going to have backs and tight ends and all that chip.
Do you think they still make another move before the deadline Tuesday? For probably a corner or interior defensive line.
Interior, yeah. I mean, how much more draft picks do they have? They're not having to give.
I mean, you're gonna have to keep it. Yeah.
I mean, I think they need interior help defensively and another corner, but I mean, are you going to keep exhausting draft picks? I think they would like to, because I think that's the thing is like they've lost 2 games, but Detroit's really good, and they might be the best team in the league, and you had a chance to win that. The Rams one was annoying, that game, but them getting back their 2 receivers changed it.
Yep.
They can rationalize it. Hey, it was a Thursday night game. We're traveling across, whatever. But I don't think they're suddenly a bad team. I think they have some areas they have to fix. I mean, they got to figure out. I do think B-Flow has to figure out a way to get that pressure going back. And you face 2 good quarterbacks, right? I mean, you take two veteran quarterbacks that are
and coaches.
And coaches, yeah. But, I mean, they faced good coaches before this, but, I mean, Goff is really good at dissecting and his accuracy. And, he's probably has the best skilled guys, running back and wide receivers, and Stafford was just, But they have to figure out how to kind of get that juice back. And I don't know if it's, Blake Cashman's absence has hurt him in the run for sure.
Yes.
Against the run. And for sure. There's no doubt about that. In
the passing game, too, the intermediate thing is not all because of, but it's definitely being exploited because Cashman, I've been shocked, but I mean, that guy, when he plays, is everywhere.
Yeah, he can run. And both the Lions and Rams work that middle, I mean, they work that area. So, getting him healthy, and I don't know if he's going to be up this week or not, or if it's going to need another week, but they need to figure out what to get 3 pressures on Stafford. I mean, that's just not bad. That's not going to work.
They just didn't get home at all.
Yeah.
So, Dallas Turner.
Yeah.
This seems to be a point of contention. Seems to be a big talking point.
Yeah.
What is your and the obvious easy? It's lazy, but the easy comparison is Lewis Cine busted, and now it looks like this guy. I personally am not concerned. No. I personally think they're asking him to learn a lot. And look, their defense suffers no fools. So if you don't know exactly what you're doing, are you concerned that he's played 7 snaps in the past 2 games?
No, because we've talked about how complicated this defense is, and it just takes some time. And he's playing behind some pretty good players. That's the one thing. It's like, now 7 snaps is not a lot. Obviously, I thought he was going to have a huge monster rookie season because I just think he's so gifted athletically. But it just goes to show you, man, it's more than that, right? It's more than just being physically, but like in college, he could be just physically better than the guys he's going. Even in the SEC, he was physically better than a lot of the tackles or whatever he was going against. Well, everybody's good in the NFL, and so you've got to find different ways to be effective.
He said that yesterday.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he's a good kid. He talks. He's fine to talk. But yeah, he pointed out that some of the tackles you're going against in the National Football League ain't, for all of the fans.
It's not Vanderbilt.
Like, that Alabama team could beat an NFL team. It's like, He's like, no, you don't understand. These tackles are like elite. And in college, they were good, but they ain't all elite.
Well, I said Vandy, and Vandy beat Alabama this year. But, that's what drives me crazy when somebody, you'll have the worst NFL team that wins like 2 games. And be like, Alabama or Georgia could beat them. I'm like, are you crazy?
Right.
No, they could not. It wouldn't be close. So he's just trying to, learn the system, figuring it out. I'm not worried. If Flores keeps speaking highly of him, we would hear if there was something more than just a rookie learning the thing, right? You would know. Everything they rave about, all the things he's doing, work, and that his future. So I'm not overly concerned about his snap count.
Roscoe?
What do you boys think about Joe Flacco on Sunday? I feel fairly confident the Vikings would beat either Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco, but I think it's interesting that they both bring something to the table. Flacco these days is a bit more of a statue, but he is definitely a veteran that can, kind of like what you said about Jared Goff. I don't know if he is as good as Jared Goff at any point in his career. He probably was when he took him to the Super Bowl, but I think there's something to be said for being able to pick apart a defense that maybe Anthony Richardson can't do. But Anthony Richards' scrambling ability and getting out of the pocket startles me more. So if the Vikings can get home and get some pressure, I'd like to think they can take care of the Colts fairly easily with Flacco at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be
62 years old now.
Well, that's it. He's going to be able to decipher more, things. I mean, he's seen a lot, but he's not Richardson's with his athleticism and mobility. But that's an interesting decision that they have made, that you invest in this guy. And how many games has he started? You're already, benching him. I don't know what they thought, if it was just going to be instant gratification, but it doesn't work that way all the time. I mean, CJ Stroud came in and he had, instant gratification, takes him to the playoffs, but it's not, you can't bank on that. So, but I don't know that I know that the line went down when the news came out, but I think the Vikings will be able to get pressure on him, and he's not going to be able to, scramble out of trouble in the way that some other guys would. So I think they win this game. I think they have a bounce back, and the defense plays well.
I don't know about you guys. It sounds like you aren't. I'm not panicked at all by the Minnesota Vikings and losing a couple of games in a row. The Lions' loss is explainable. If you want to fire up excuses like we talked about at the early onset of this edition, you can make all the excuses in the world as to why you lost on Thursday night. I won't be super concerned about the direction of this team until or if they lose to the Colts on Sunday night. If you get right, you win 2 of the next 3 or all 3 of the next 3, you're just fine.
Yeah, if they lose Sunday night and continue to have the penalties and the sloppiness that we've seen, that's when and the defense doesn't kind of have that edge that we've seen the first month, then I'd be like, okay, now wait a second here. They just been sloppy, I think, and they have to.
Well,
they have to
they were, for sure.
Yeah, I say sloppy in terms of the penalties.
Yeah.
If they can clean that up, but I'm not overly concerned. But I think if they win, and I think they will, it'll be a kind of a get well for them.
Absolutely. And of course, that game is Sunday night, and there would be no better place to watch that game than on a Roku TV. And right now on the Score North app, you can win a 75-inch Roku Pro Series Smart TV and wall mount. Just use the Score North app to register. Kick off and kick back with a new TV this holiday season from Roku, all from the best seat in the house. Of course, that is your couch. That's on the Score North app under Listener Rewards. Score North app, Listener Rewards. Yeah, and the interesting thing is the Colts game, and then you have a 3-game road trip, but Jacksonville, Tennessee. So the expectations here are going to be extremely high. But again, that's why I like the Williams trade, because I think it shows some confidence. Like, if you go in there and you're like, hey, we're moving Blake Brandel, your team's going to be like, hold on a second. You said it's on a very small scale. Chip, I liken this to 2016. Teddy goes down.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, Sean Hill, you're the next man up. It's like, no, you can't do that. They make the Bradford trade. Yeah, they gave up a first-round pick, but I thought that they had to. I think that this is on a small scale, I think this is the similar type of move of, hey, we just lost a very important player, and we're not going to try to be cheap and piecemeal this. We're going to give you something that you can actually work with.
Yeah, because the opportunity was there. Like you had a veteran left tackle who, for whatever reason, his team is trying to move on from him, and so you have to have the opportunity to do that, right? And so it worked for both sides, and I credit Kwesi and Kevin for saying, no, let's aim a little higher than just shuffling guys, a backup in there into different roles that we don't know how that's going to work either, because Brandel's been playing guard the whole time, so now you're asking him to kick out and play. So I credit them for being aggressive and finding the best solution to a problem. I think that you can possibly do, that you can afford, and so that's when your team's 5-2 and has put on the board what they already have, you should absolutely try to make it the best solution you can.
Exactly right. Chipper, great stuff. We will talk to you next week before the Vikings do embark on that 3-game road trip. Chip Scoggins, check out his stuff, of course, Star Tribune. We'll see you later. Purple Access is the show.